Hello and welcome to an episode of the Manufacturing Leaders Podcast with me, Mark Bracknell, Managing Director of Theo James Recruitment. Today, we welcome on Richard Bradley, the CEO of the SST Group, which involves diet engineering and Q-Laser. I couldn't wait to have Richard on this podcast. I have waited a long time for this. Richard was one of my key targets when I started the podcast a few years ago, and it did not disappoint. I won't give too much away, but this is one of my favourite ever episodes. It really has put fire in my belly. I guess to summarise it, we talked a great deal about the importance of people in an organisation, which includes the importance of caring about people, the importance of health and safety, the importance of having a vision and a belief system that you can create something world-class and you can create something special. And actually, I came away from this episode being very grateful about being a leader, about having a position of responsibility and the chance to enable people, great people, to do great things in a business. And it's definitely going to be one of those episodes where I'm sure you feel the same, but also come away with some tips, some advice, and some motivation how to create an amazing business that you're in today. So I just want to thank Richard for his time today. It was a phenomenal episode. He was very honest about everything, and it's one of those where you're definitely going to learn a lot. So thank you very much. Please sit back, watch or listen to the episode, and please, as ever, do me the honor, just liking and subscribing. It really, really helps grow that channel. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoy the episode. And a massive warm welcome today to Richard Bradley, the CEO of the SST Group. How are you, Richard?
I'm very well. Thank you very much. Hi, Mark. Good to see you.
Good to see you, and really looking forward to this one. I know I've mentioned it before, but you were on my top 5 list nearly 4 years ago when we started the podcast, which I'll probably explain during the episode why that was the case. So I'm really looking forward to, no pressure, but to record this one.
It's an honor. It's an honor indeed. And now I'm scared.
No, but looking forward to it and loads to talk about. First question is the same question I ask everyone to see what sort of first springs to mind, which is, what does it mean to you to be a leader?
Ooh, that's a great question. So I think it means a few things. The first one that springs to mind is responsibility and accountability. It's that sort of goes with leading any organization of any size. Another word that springs to mind is opportunity. It's the chance to hopefully create something and create something, but create it with lots of people with you. So I'm a firm believer in the power of the team. I'm not one of these people that likes to sort of be, hey, look at me and do all of this. It's very much about how we create something together, and I suppose that's what, for me, that's what being a leader is how do you bring a group of people that may have different morals, different values, obviously different personalities. How do you bring them all together and make them coalesce around something that we all want to achieve together, and then make that vision, that dream, or whatever it is, and make it into reality? Is that, I believe, is the responsibility that goes with being a leader.
Yeah, I completely agree. Have you ever felt the pressure or the weight on your shoulders because of that responsibility? Because I think sometimes leadership is hard, we know that, but sometimes people feel that pressure because they have got responsibility to get the best out of someone. Is that eased over time, would you say? Or what's that journey been like for you?
I don't think, well, I suppose maybe it has in some respects, because like all things, the more you do it, the more you live it, the more you are it, the more used to you get to it. So maybe I'm not sure ease is the right word. I suppose you become more comfortable with it, and it's definitely changed over time. I presume I certainly read a lot about it, so I presume that I'm similar to a lot of people. At the beginning, there's the whole imposter syndrome. You just don't think that you're the right person. That have you got what it takes? Can you do it? Can you live with it? And I think I've been through all of that, and I can't say I'm out of it. There's always an element that of that imposter syndrome that exists in the little voice in the back of your head. which you have to try and ignore as best as you possibly can. So I think you become more comfortable with the fact that there is that responsibility, there is that accountability. That the longer you're doing it, that would be my take on that. How about you? How does that feel for you?
Yeah, I was just thinking that when you said that, very, very similar because also someone who suffer imposter syndrome. 'Cause I agree. I don't think it goes away. I think things just you like anything. You make a decision based on the data that you've got in your head, and I think once you make a decision 5 times, I think you're more comfortable with it. But so I think it does get easier. But actually, I think you get okay with making mistakes, and you get okay with not necessarily needing to have all the answers, and that's it's quite a nice feeling, isn't it, when you realize as a leader you don't have to have every single decision. You can empower the people around you to do so, and that's quite a comforting feeling. That
Yeah, totally agree with that. I think that is one of the I think that's one of the hardest transitions that people have to make from managing per se into leading per se, is that I, along with lots and lots and lots of other people, when you're in that management phase, you think you do need to know all the answers. You think you've got to find the right way forward for every single occasion, and of course, now we realise that couldn't be further from the truth. It's absolutely acceptable and probably in some respect wanted that you don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of a team, isn't it? Is that let's solve it between us. Why would any single person have the answers to everything? If you say that out loud, it's nonsensical, because no one can know everything. No one can be right every time. So I think you're right, by the way, that as you progress through, you reach there's that realization, isn't there? Actually, it's someone raises something. I don't need this answer. I don't need to know this answer. What we do need to do is discuss it in a really grown-up adult way, and reach an answer where we all look at each other and go, yeah, do you know what it is? That's the one we're going to go with. It still might not be the right one.
Yeah.
That's important to accept the fact that actually it might not be right, but we as a team are agreed that this is the way we're going to go.
Yeah, it's ego, isn't it? I think a lot of good leaders don't lead with ego, and I think when you're young and you start managing, it's impossible not to do that, because you feel like you have to, because you're scared to go. I don't know, but exactly what you just said there. Let's find out together or something. That takes confidence, doesn't it? It takes some experience
Absolutely.
to be able to do that. It does.
I think it's quite exposing, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you're younger and you think that you ought to know, someone asks you a question, and to say I don't know is actually, what's this going to make me look like? Maybe it's an age function, Mark, but maybe now I just don't care.
Yeah, there is that. And I think the lesson I learned too late was that I gave people, when I did know, I gave people the answer every time.
Yeah.
That because it was quicker, and often it would get them away from me, so I could carry on with the task at hand. And then you learn that if they ask you a question, it might be the right time, and okay, give me 5 minutes, and then we can discuss it. And then, what do you think? But that takes a long time, doesn't it? I wish I learned that quicker. It would have saved me a lot of pain.
Yeah, no, and yes, I have lived something very similar. It's almost like that. It's almost like short term and long term, because short term is I'll give you the answer and you'll go away and we'll get it done quickly.
Yep.
Long term is I'm investing in you. I'm investing in the process of exploring, so that we learn together. And actually, that's how you create that right environment, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that it's not just you telling people what to do. It's us sharing together to find a way forward. And when you put that into the mix of trying to grow a business, then it has to be that, because if it's you answering all of the questions all of the time, you're limited. You're absolutely limited. You've limited the business by your actions, and it's that's all easily said, and much harder to live and breathe.
One thing I'll be interested to talk to you about was something we picked up before, was the concept of care, which segues us nice into this as well, because that is where I think leadership has evolved, where leaders really care about their side. But there is a difference between caring because you think you should do, corporate care, and then actually caring on that side. My observation of working with Dire Engineering over the last few years has been very much the latter, that the leadership team actually cares. But that's difficult, isn't it? That's not an overnight thing. That transition. If there's an ops director listening to this going, I don't think we've got that culture. I think it's quite transactional. The retention staff's quite poor. We haven't got that. How do you start to change that gradually, would you say?
I presume there's a few ways to do it. I think the way we did it was very much through communication and talking. Well, actually, sorry, listening and talking and sharing and exploring. And I'll be totally open and honest and say that 10 years ago we weren't doing that. I think the journey we started on to get us to that point where I'm really happy to hear you say what you just said about Dire Engineering. I think that's been the last maybe 5-6 years of how we do things. I think we started by listening. We knew it wasn't right. We could tell. I'm one of those people that always talks about the feel of an organization. You can almost feel when it's right. And you could feel in our organization that it definitely wasn't right. And certainly pre-COVID or probably into COVID, it was tough, and we didn't feel like a together organization. But COVID did many things for many organizations, I feel, and for the ones that reacted in the right way, which I feel like we did, it was almost an opportunity. It was almost a reset button, and I think coming out of that, we started to listen and we started to and listen and pay attention, and then most importantly, we started to do something about what we were hearing. So, I think it was. Oh, this is terrible, isn't it? I think it was last year. It must have been last year. I can't remember if it was last year or the year before, but we won an award for health and safety. That's actually where we started. Is we talked long and hard about health and safety for forever, really, but I don't think we'd actually lived and breathed it, and I don't think we always cared, but I don't think people really believed us.
Mm-hmm.
And through the power of listening, talking, and action, people started to believe. Whereas now, if you go into an organization and we talk about health and safety, everyone believes that we care because we've backed that up with our actions. Are we a perfect organization with a fantastic health and safety record? No, but have we absolutely changed our cultural behavior around health and safety, and are we constantly striving to be the best we possibly can? Yes, and I think we've done that across a number of different areas in the business. If you talk to, as you will be in April, I think it is, talk to our group HR manager and talk about, I'll not steal her thunder, but if you talk about employee churn, for example, I don't think we're too far away from world class in that respect. The percentage is quite surprising and amazing, is great. And that is because I think we live and breathe the whole idea of, SST Group is built on the back of smarter, stronger together. That whole ethos of how we do things really, really lives in the organization, and it makes me feel great when I look in and I think the feel of the organization's right now. So I can walk around and go, I'd like to work here. This is where I'd want to work. And that was always our aim when we set out.
You're absolutely right regarding that COVID statement as well, because we saw firsthand how companies reacted to a situation that obviously no one planned for. And there was such a stark difference between how some companies just went, exactly that, we've got an opportunity here and we need to look after our staff. We're not sure what's going to happen. We're not sure how many are going to be with us during this period of time because there's so many unanswered questions. All we know is we've got to look after them because they're going to be really worried and concerned. And exactly that, good companies jumped on Teams, whatever it was, got them together. And even if there's no information, that information was enough. The fact that we don't know what's happening, but we'll keep you
Mm.
updated. Versus other companies that were really transactional about the whole thing and had no communication. I know some people didn't speak to their employees during the whole period of COVID, and people got long memories. When
Mm.
they came back, they just said, that's not the amount of calls we had. They said, they treat me really badly. I had no communication, and I'm worried if something else happens, then what's going to happen? Versus a company who, you know what, it's not the greatest job in the world. The company's got some problems, but they looked after me during that period of time, and I've got some loyalty and trust there. And exactly what you just said there, that if you listen and then you talk and then there's the action in that exact order, that's how you create loyalty. And people talk about attraction, and people ask us, how do you attract people, what's the benefits? Just worry about your attention first. There's no point in attracting people to your business if your attention is really poor. It's absolutely, that will just cost you loads and loads of money. So no,
Yeah.
the point you made there, Richard, is absolutely on the money. And it's interesting, the health and safety piece, because I honestly think that is there's a hidden cost of poor health and safety that people don't realize. And the feedback we get often is that, I've walked around there and it's dangerous. I don't think people see that as a real reason for retention. We've actually had it this week. Someone called
Really.
up, yeah, and it was a senior person, and they don't trust, they don't feel safe. And
Yeah.
there's an emotional safety feeling in a business, which is important, but there's also a health and safety in a
Mm.
business, physical health and safety, which is just as important. Would you put that I guess changing that and evolution of that to where you're now, would you put that down then to communication still and listening and understanding where the problems were in the first place?
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, and then doing something about it.
Yeah.
Because you used the word, we've only used it once, and you're the only person who said it, which is trust. And that is the key: is that people have to trust that you do have their health, their well-being in mind, that you do care. Because if they don't trust you in that respect, then, well, they're not with you anyway, are they? And you're not getting it right if that's how it is. Um, so I think we worked, and still do constantly work long and hard to earn people's trust.
Yeah.
If you don't have trust, well, you don't have a team. You haven't got the right kind of organization if you haven't built trust throughout it. And I think that very much, I'm sure you've read lots of stuff like I have around trust and the types of trust that exist, and how you do that. But vulnerability is one of the key components of creating absolute trust. And I think that's something else that we've done a lot of in terms of holding our hands up and saying, look, we didn't get it right. And we will continue to get things wrong, because we are all the same. We're all human beings. Things will go wrong. It becomes what you do with that after the fact is the most important thing. And just being, I find it quite freeing, to be honest, to be able to and I like to think that this exists throughout the organization. I might be kidding myself, but but I like to think that if someone gets it wrong, they feel confident and safe enough in our organization to say, I got it wrong. Not, oh, it was because of this, or
Yeah.
the excuse element, but no, I got it wrong. And that's okay. I actually think getting something wrong is, well, it's part of human life, and we should almost celebrate it and say, right, okay, fantastic, we've got a great learning opportunity here. Let's learn from it. We'll not make that one again. We'll make something else. We'll make another mistake somewhere else. But if you always view it as a chance to learn and grow, then actually, is that not a good thing?
Yeah. That has to come from your leader, doesn't it? Because if your leader isn't doing that, and your leader, because
Yeah.
you can always tell if your manager's made a mistake, you can tell. And if they've dealt with that by not showing that humility, you're gonna have the same traits. Some of that, and that has to come from leadership. But I guess that has to come from right from the top, doesn't it? Because ultimately, if he's not coming from the top, then the leader below the top are going to do so, and that trickles down. It's so important. There's obviously an issue in most industries. This isn't unique to manufacturing, but it's still a problem in manufacturing engineering that people are promoted based on skill set, and often then not given the relevant training to be able to deal with all this stuff that we're talking.
Absolutely.
Is that something you've had to tackle along the 10 years to get to where the business is now, would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. We are we are very typical in some respects. I think we recognised this a few years ago and put in place a program which was called Leading at Dyer, which I'm sure you've heard of. Yes, I think it's the best proponent of it that I've seen, or the best way I've seen it done actually, is in one of the massive corporates, which is I shall name them, which is Procter and Gamble, who obviously a long time ago, many decades ago, recognized that in any given group of people, you will have some that are really suited to leading people, and some that actually are just technically gifted but not suited to leading people. And so they created basically streams, so you could go down one or go down the other. It didn't mean you were there for life, but fundamentally it worked for the large majority. And I think we're nowhere near that, but I actually think that's the right way to do it, because what you're right is, in most companies you end up with individuals that are very gifted at their job. They end up leading people, and actually that might not be the right place for them, not only for them but also for the people that they're either managing or leading. And it would be a much more adult conversation, wouldn't it, if we could all just recognize that at the beginning and say, right, okay, well, what do you want to do? What do you think is the right path for you? Well, I think I'm loving technical, and I think I'm suited to that. Great, let's find a stream that works for you. I'm good at what I do, but actually I really enjoy working with people. Okay, that might be, you're more suited to that version of it. And I think I'm sure all the large corporates have worked this out a long time ago and have thrown the resources at it and got it set up like that. In the SME world, it's a little bit different, and we're learning all the time, and investing in that leadership program has been one of the best things that we've done. And obviously we will keep doing that, and keep driving the conversations towards finding the managers or leaders or both within the organisation that already exists, and we don't even know it yet.
Well, exactly that, and things are difficult right now in the industry. Budgets are tighter than they ever have been, and actually bringing in leaders with X amount of experience is going to cost the business some money, some risk there, some training, and exactly what you just said there. There will be people in your business now, people listening. There are people in your business that may not even realize that leadership is the way for them, because they don't know what the path is. And they're the hidden gems of your business who know the business inside out, and they're the ones that can fly the flag and understand the cultural piece, because it's risky bringing in anyone, seeing the business. There's pros and cons to it, and I do think bringing external people there's a real positivity to that, because it's different ideas and they see things that internal people won't see. But you need that balance for me, don't you?
I think so. Whilst it's quite gratifying to think that all of the future managers and leaders of the business are already in the business, the reality is that every now and then it's great to bring people in from sometimes from other industries or from other businesses within your own industry, because fundamentally it brings in a different way of thinking, doesn't it? It brings in a different perspective. So I think that the balance, I'm back to, it's like all things in life, really, isn't it? You always end up with the balanced approach is usually the best approach.
Yeah.
So it's always a mix of the two things. I would love to, create a business where everybody could progress and develop and get to where they want to, and fundamentally that's what we're trying to do. But the realities of life is that occasionally we're going to bring other people in. It's just the way there's no getting away from that. It'll be that.
Yeah, 100%. Apologies for interrupting this podcast. Very briefly, to tell you about the Manufacturing Leaders Summit, an event I've been wanting to organise for quite some time, and we finally done it with New College Durham, April the 30th, 2026. All money raised goes to Red Sky Foundation, a charity extremely close to my heart that I've raised money for over the last 5 years after losing my dad to a cardiac arrest. It's an amazing charity, and you actually see the effects of the money raised. You'll see the defibrillators going in around the area. The day is going to be amazing. We've got speakers who are TED talkers, we've got an ex-Olympian, we've got authors all around leadership, mentality and manufacturing engineering. We've got an amazing panel of people. We're going to talk about helping young people get into engineering, and then we've got 8 different workshops to choose from. It's going to be an amazing event all around adding value back to manufacturing. Ideally 180 to 200 people are going to be there on the day, and it's a great opportunity to network with like-minded people, other manufacturing leaders. So please attend. Ticket prices are a suggested £15 donation when you sign up via Eventbrite, and we really want you to be there. Tickets are going fast, workshops are getting filled up fast, so please make sure you click the link, which we'll put in the comment section as well. Click the link, share it with anyone else you think could be keen, and I can't wait to see you there. Thank you very much. I'd like to pick your brains regarding, I guess this is probably more vision and culture purpose focus, I guess. And I said at the start of the episode that you're on my radar to try and get on this podcast for quite some time, and no more so than probably 2.5 years, 3 years ago now it was, when we sat in an internal meeting. We're looking for an internal meeting at Dio for yourself and Maxine and probably about 10 other leaders in the business. At the time, you were talking to them about purpose, but you were talking to them about the importance of Dio being a world class. And you mentioned before being world class. And you used that phrase 5 or 6 times, and it hammered it home. But you talked about the importance of when someone passes their probation, the feeling they should be second to none, that they've got it, they've passed probation diet, and that feeling. And you were talking and everyone was listening, and you communicated that, and it really hit home to me how important it is to have a vision and communicate that vision and have a shared goal. And that links with everything, with the culture of it and everything we've talked about today. And I do think that's a missing piece for a lot of businesses. The fact they just probably turn up and have their day to day, and they look at the data and all this type of stuff, and they can be successful, but they never create that camaraderie and that North Star to some extent. How important is it for you, if you were in a different business today and you walked in and didn't have that, to try to create that vision and purpose in the business that everyone understands and it's clear? What do you say?
Yeah, I think that's well, actually, I'll qualify that with, it depends what you want. So I'm humming and hawing here. I should get my words out clearly. I had a vision Graham and I had a vision a long time ago, which was, we wanted to create the best version of the business that it could possibly be. And my view on that is, well, why would you want to create anything else other than that? And if that's what you want, then what do you want to be the best in the world at? How are you going to get there? What does it look like? What drives you? What are the passions that exist in the business within yourself? Where do you want to get to? And I'm very much a believer that if you don't have a vision that, I'm going to say, the majority buy into, because it's very difficult to get everybody to buy into it. But if you can get the majority to buy into it, I think that's your only chance of being the best version of the business that you can possibly create. I think if you haven't got that, you can still be good. There's no getting away from it. It can still be good, but would it be a place where you'd aspire to work and want to go, and go the extra mile for, and maybe even love working there? I don't think it would. I think it would just be your average place. And one of the things that we set out to do and still are doing is, I've always wanted to create a business that my children would look at and go, yeah, I want to be part of that. And that's the path we've been on for the last 12 years, is still working on it. Is, I want people to come into work and think, from the scale of, yeah, it's all right to work here, to I love working here. I think that feels like a good place to be, and we'll keep trying to make it into the best place to be. So I think, the whole idea of world class is that I want people to feel that. I want people to feel that, where do you work? Well, I'm part of the SST Group. I work at Dyer. What's it like there? Do you know what it is? I really enjoy it. It's a great place to work. We're trying to be this world class business here in County Durham. Why not? Why not? The concept of all of these, the fantastic large corporates that we look at. Rolls-Royce is a great example. Certainly after the turnaround it's been over the past few years, which I know exceptionally well at, but they'll have started in Derby 150 odd years ago, and it'll have been really similar to Dyer Engineering starting 50 years ago as a one-man band in the north of County Durham. So why not? That's always my. So people look at you and you say, well, we can do what Rolls-Royce did, and sort of, yeah. So, well, why not?
Yeah.
If you don't try, guess what? You've got no chance. If you're not gonna dream big, then you're never ever gonna get there. And I know that's a cliche, and I know loads of people have said that, but I actually, it's a cliche because it's pretty much true, isn't it? If you're not going to have a real bash at it, then you're not going to get there. And so the answer to your question, I've gone really long-winded there. I do apologise.
No,
is that it's just, yes, you've got to have a vision, and I think more importantly is you've got to feel it, you've got to want it. It's got to be something inside of you. If you're going to lead it, then it's got to be something inside of you that says, yeah, absolutely, that's what we want.
Yeah.
And I'm going to work really, really hard to try and create the right environment that we can get there.
Look, it's a phenomenal answer. And, I guess I was really thinking deeply when you were talking there. And what really resonated with me is the fact that you have to believe it, and you have to feel it's right for you as a leader. Because, we talk about this a lot here. We talk about reputation a lot. We always talk about reputation over profit. But what's really that's really important to me. And also, it's always been important to me to build a culture, because exactly what you said there. I want to build a business that people enjoy coming in. Like, it really, I really feel physical pain if people really aren't happy and stuff. I've always felt that. But we talk about that. We'll come up against some of our competition who perhaps don't have those values, but actually could be more successful on the bottom on a P&L, and we've got to be careful of that, because actually they'll work a certain way, and might be in a certain way, and do certain things, and they'll be successful. But yeah, you need to be okay with that. You need to be okay with doing the right things on a daily basis. And if that sometimes means you don't get the end result, then that's okay. You've got to be true to your values, but you've got to want to really believe in that, because if you work for a business that just cares about we're gonna make you this amount of money, then that's absolutely fine if that's what you believe. But if you don't, then it's not right for you, isn't it? It's yeah, I probably not communicate that, but that was just when you were talking there, that was the sort of thing that was springing to my mind, that you've got to really care about the vision, haven't you, personally?
I think so. I think, we've all got to make money. It's just that the money side of it's almost like a given, because if you're not what's the true measure of a successful business? Well, it's longevity. So how do you get longevity? Well, you've got to be profitable, got to make money.
Yeah.
That's got to be part of the mix of
Has to be
a sustainable business that's been around for 50, 100, 150 years. There'll always be cycles within that, but the model has got to work. So that's, I think maybe what I hear from what you said there is that I think businesses that are driven by people that only care about money, well, if that were the case, then the people working within that would see that, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
It's just money.
Mm-hmm.
And so what's the culture going to be like? Well, it's going to be just about money. And what that makes me think is that a sustainable business model that will create a business that can exist for 50 to 100 years? And my thoughts around that are possibly not, but I might be wrong.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Here's a question, and this is a reflection question, difficult one. What the journey you've made, you personally, and it could be for you personally, it could be for for the group. What's the biggest thing you're proud of in your career so far? Would you say, if you'd reflect?
Um, that's one of those questions that I really, really struggle with.
Yeah, because there isn't a right or wrong answer. But when you were talking about there in terms of you and Graham in the early days and met the vision, I just thought, yeah, you've come so far that
Mm.
there'll be so much stuff that you're proud of, but sometimes difficult to pinpoint one because we never have the time to sit and reflect like that.
So maybe a strange one. I don't know, but I think I think I'm most proud of the fact that um, that the business is here and that so survival. Um, and the reason I say that, I have to qualify that with the reason I say that is, we nearly went. Not a lot of people know that, but we had some really, and I know most businesses go through certain phases like this, but I think we were as close as you could possibly get at one point in time. But we found a way, and we've gone from that point to the point we're at now, where I look and think, wow, that, what a great team and what a great business, and the future looks really positive for the group. I suppose we said it maybe half an hour ago, is that have you got what it takes to go the whole journey? And I suppose that's what I'm most proud of, is that somehow or other we have.
Yeah.
And that's I think anyone who owns and runs a business probably knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah. And you know what? There'll be a lot of people listening who will resonate with that, but also probably feel it right now as well, because
Mm.
it's probably, I say never been harder, but it's a difficult time right now to own a business and to work for this market
Yeah,
conditions. And, to hear you say that will help a lot of people because of what you've achieved since, because yeah, entrepreneurship is difficult, and resilience is probably the most important trait that we probably haven't talked
yeah.
about. It's just
I
needed.
think so. I
Yeah,
think so. I totally believe that. And I think you know there was. I don't mind admitting there's certainly been times in the last 10 years where I thought, oh my God, I'm not sure. I'm not
yeah.
sure I can do this anymore,
Mhm.
because it just gets to the point where you just feel like you're being battered.
Same.
Um, and the sort of the one thing I learned from that is, um, I was lucky to have one or two people around me that I could talk to, um, and when I got the closest to going, "Oh, it's time to just stop, can't do this anymore." It was just a chance conversation with one of those people who asked me a question, and I went, oh yeah, okay, I hadn't thought of that. Because that's often the way, isn't it? Because you're so in it, it's hard to see
Yeah.
sometimes.
Hmm.
And that one question is probably the reason that we're still here, and whether we came out of it and we've grown and created this fabulous team of people that do great things at Dyer, and now hopefully we're going to do exactly the same in Q Laser. Is the creation of SST Group is very much the continuation of that journey. I, you know, why not Rolls Royce? We are at the start of the creation of what I hope to become one of the greatest Northeast engineering businesses ever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm definitely proud of that journey, and more than happy to talk to anybody who wants to talk about getting through the hard times. It's important to have people around you that you can talk to that are not probably not even in the business. Probably better that they aren't.
Yeah, I agree. Which segues us nicely into the last part, where I like to just pick your brains on the industry really, and particularly the northeast. You obviously sit on the board of the engineering manufacturing network. You're obviously an expert networker in terms of what you do now. And I think if one of the reasons I started this podcast a while ago was because I didn't feel that the industry really networks and learns from each other enough. I think there's some tremendous networks out there that do that. what are your thoughts on, where the industry is now? Probably more so what needs to be done to improve it. And I guess if we really want to sort of reversing that a little bit more, what can people listening start to try and do to help the industry? Because I do think we're in this together, I would say.
Mm. Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I think the path for manufacturing in the Northeast is still quite a challenging one. I actually think we're perfectly positioned to be, the manufacturing version of Silicon Valley. Why can't the Northeast be the hub of manufacturing in the UK? And I think we've got all of the right ingredients to try and create that. But we're not the greatest at shouting about ourselves and putting ourselves out there and talking about the fact that we have got great heritage, great skills. So from that network perspective, what do we need to do? I think we need to keep doing more of what we're doing, which is we definitely collaborate across the piece, but actually I don't think we're doing it exceptionally well. And I think part of the reason behind that is, the Northeast manufacturing landscape is very similar to others in the sense that it's dominated by SMEs. And SMEs from 5 people up to 500 people. And I think the bulk of them are probably in that 1 to 50 employee range. And what happens when you're in that kind of business is, well, fundamentally you'll be in it, and it's very difficult to actually take time out of it to network, to collaborate. Part of what we do at the Engineering Manufacturing Network is try and make that happen, but it's a challenge, and I really get it as well, because if you've set up and run your own business, it's actually and there's 10 of you, and every day depends on some of the decisions that you're going to make. It's actually really difficult to say, well, I'm going to take 3 hours out to attend a networking session, or to attend a session where I'm going to learn something about something that might help the business. But I do firmly believe that the answer lies within that. I just think that maybe the way that we're connecting is not the right way. So that's something we're actually working actively on in EMN is very much, well, how do we sort of turn it around? How do we take it to people so that they don't have to leave their business? How do we get to share this information about best practice in whatever it is? It could be logistics, HR, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But, the fundamental purpose should be to help Northeast manufacturing and engineering businesses to grow. What's the answer to this? Is a bit far-reaching, so I do apologize, but this is what I believe in, is that business should be a force for good. And by being a force for good, I mean by creating employment. You create more employment by growing. If businesses can grow, create more employment, that means fewer people in out of work, potential poverty situation. I think that's what business should be doing. I think all businesses should always be trying to grow, because that is a positive journey. You've got to do it in a sustainable, managed way, but you should always be on that path. And if we can create more and more and more of that, that can only be beneficial to the society of the region that we live in. And you can take that as wide as you want, but that's what I believe in. So, and that's how I try, and that's my worldview. Is I want all I am ever trying to do is be a force for good, but through the businesses. Is how do we grow? How do we create more employment at the same time as creating a sustainable, profitable business that will benefit everybody who's connected to it? And I think from the regional point of view, it's how do we create lots of businesses like that? Because we need lots and lots doing the same kind of thing within whatever industry they're in. I'm not sure if I've answered your question.
No,
I feel like I've gone on a ramble there.
No, it absolutely does, because it's so it's. And I think when you were talking, I was apprenticeships are just everything about what you just talked about, aren't they? Because they should be a pillar of the community. You get apprenticeships right, they are your future. They are they're helping young people, but they're helping the business as well. if you get things right. And I heard you talk about it. I've heard Adam talk about it. I've heard the business talk about it. I'm very consistent with that. And for me, the best businesses invest in apprenticeships, and I wholeheartedly believe that. I know it's not always easy, but I think if you can create that organic funnel, the culture that creates in business is second to
Yeah,
none. I really do.
yeah, and you are right. It's an investment.
Yeah.
You have to invest in apprenticeships,
Hmm.
um, and for me, it's exactly the right thing to do in any business, because you're creating a pipeline for the future, and at the same time, hopefully, creating great people as well.
Yeah.
The people that can be the best versions of themselves in whatever business setting they decide to go through. Because obviously, it's almost impossible that everybody's going to stay with you. Apprentices starting at the ages of somewhere between 16 and 19. I can remember what it was like at that age. I didn't have a clue what I was going to do, but I think it's harder for smaller businesses to invest in.
Yeah.
But I would encourage anybody. I actually think you'd be amazed at how positive it is for the culture of that business to have an apprentice. If you're a 1 to 10 business, have one apprentice. Actually, you can really drive the rest of the people in there. It's
Yep.
The addition of that youth and energy
Hmm.
is sometimes game changing. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I firmly believe in apprenticeships.
You see, when you have people that in the business, you see people who you didn't think were going to be leaders. You see them step up, and you see
That's a
how
good point.
they communicate, and that itself can create a leader in your business you didn't realize. And often something sparks in them they didn't realize they had as well. So no, there's just so many benefits to it. Just finally, before I summarize, tell us a little about SST, if they don't mind, which in terms of how they set up and what I guess what are the plans that are exciting you for the next sort of 12 to 18 months?
Um, so SST Group has effectively been born out of Dyer Engineering. So we've gone from single entity to a group entity. In the last, well, maybe 4 or 5 months ago, we completed the acquisition of a company called Q Laser, which the clue's in the title. It's a laser cutting business, so it cuts metal, and Dyer, obviously, our sweet spot on machine fabrication. So we fabricate, weld, etc. And that's our first acquisition within SST Group. The SST comes, I think I mentioned it earlier, comes from Smarter, Stronger Together, which is very much the ethos and feel that you'll see in Dyer, and we hope to bring that to every business that we acquire over the coming 5, 10, 15, 20 years. The plan is very much to, well, if I said it wasn't growth, you'd be able to throw something at me, because I've just said that every business should be trying to grow, and that's exactly what we will be doing.
Yeah.
It is one of growth, and within the group setting, we plan to grow organically, grow acquisitively, and it's that dream that I've probably mentioned a few times, which is I want to create a northeast engineering or group of engineering businesses that can grow and scale, and like I say, why not Rolls-Royce? It probably won't be in my lifetime, but everything is a phase, isn't it? So you've got to get started. That's my favorite thing in life, is when people say you've got to have a plan and spend ages planning. I just never do. I'm like, right, well, let's do a broad brushstrokes plan, and then I'm just going to get started, and we'll refine as we go along. So to a certain degree, that's what we do. We've just got started, and the next 12 to 18 months is very much on the organic side of things. Obviously, we've got a new acquisition. We're working, bedding that into the group. That's bringing its own challenges with it, as I'm sure any other business that's acquired another business will have found out. It's never as straightforward as you think it's going to be, but that's also part of the fun, part of the challenge. And once we've stabilized and delivered the organic growth that we're aiming to deliver, then we'll move on to the next phase, and we'll just keep going. And the challenge is not too dissimilar to what it always is to find the right people, have them in your organization, and hopefully that people that get it and want to deliver it in the same way that you, or certainly a flavour of what you want. And that's where the excitement for me comes from, is that whole journey of growth is, if you get it right, and more right than wrong, because no one gets it always right, is where the fun lies.
Amazing. Look, thank you so much for this. This is, I won't do us justice in terms of wrapping up this episode, because it's one of those episodes which is just lit a fire in me. And I think I was thinking of a bit of a takeaway. I think so many takeaways in this one, but I think the main one for me is it links in with your Smarter, Stronger Together, because leadership is a lonely place. And I think being a leader can be a lonely place. And as we've discussed, it doesn't have to be. Use your team and use the people around you. Pretty much everything we've talked about, whether that be culture, whether that be vision, whether that be care, health and safety, everything is about, not once have you mentioned you or a leader or, the management team. It's been about the business and how you do things together, how you listen, how you create action from those conversations you've had. And I think that for me is the biggest takeaway, that it doesn't have to be the leader of a business, or you are a leader within the business. It doesn't have to be lonely, because you've got the team around you and there's brilliant people in there who potentially just need unlocking through brilliant things. And that was a real takeaway for me, that I feel lucky to work in business that I do. And I think there were people driving in who probably don't realize that they're quite lucky to hold the position they have, because I think we forget that sometimes. It's a position of privilege. So thank you. This has been tremendous. Richard, really, really enjoyed it. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for having me on here. I always said you'd never get me on the podcast, but you did.
Persistence, you see.
Persistence.
Thank you so much for listening or watching this episode of the Manufacturing Leaders Podcast. Please just like or subscribe. It really helps grow the show and obviously improve the industry. If you want any more information about Theo James, as I mentioned midway through the episode, please get in touch with me or the team. I would love to talk about how we can help you directly or your business. We are more than just a recruiter, and I know people say that, but it's something I'm incredibly passionate about. We are in business for much more than just a bums on seats approach. We want to help people grow. We want to help improve their lives. And ultimately, I want to work with businesses and people who share the same values as we do. And that's something I'm incredibly passionate about. So please, if that is you and you are passionate about that dream role or passionate about your people, please get in touch with me or the team. I would absolutely love to talk a bit more detail. Thank you very much. Speak soon.